See. These things have no measure. The corner, the fruits, the rayon, deeds of loving kindness, and study of the Torah. These are things that the fruits of which a man enjoys in this world, and the principle remains for him in the world to come. The honoring of one's father and mother,
Wait,
the
no,
deeds
no. Hold on. Are you on?
of
Um,
Aleph.
you're on Aleph Aleph. What? Okay, we're not. We'll get to there later. Let's do the
Oh,
ones
okay.
today. Yeah, so let's do Gimel Vav first.
Rabbi Eliezer says, land of the area of a quarter is liable to Peah. Rabbi Shua says, that which produces Shatayim. Rabbi Tarfon says, 6 by 6 tefachs. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beteret says, sufficient to reap and to repeat. And the law is according to his opinion. Rabbi Kiva says, Lord, land of any size is liable to Peah, and first fruits, and one can write on its account a prose bill and purchase with a property that has no security with money by a writ or by possession. Um, If a mortally ill person assigns his property in writing and he left any land whatsoever, his gift is valid. But if he did not leave any land at all, his gift is not valid. If a person assigns his property in writing to his sons and he assigned to his wife any plot of land, she has lost her ketubah. Rabbi Yossi says if she accepted, and even though he did not assign to her, she has lost her ketubah. If a person assigns his property in writing to his slaves, he goes out a freed man. If he left any amount of land, he does not go out a freed man. And Reb Shimon says he is always a freed man unless he says, behold, all my property is given to the person so and so, my slave, except for 1,000th of it. Okay.
Okay. Um, so yeah, the previous Mishnah is just a little amusing because it's a guy who's clearly messing with his slave. It's like saying, "Yeah, here's all my property over to you, except for this bit." By which what happens is, as soon as the slave takes possession of it, it becomes the master's property again. So he's
Right.
just
Right.
doing it in a circle, unless he gives everything of his over to the slave, in which case that includes the slave himself.
No.
Okay. Dalit, Peah nitana b'mechuber lekarka. So your general rule is that Peah should be given to the aniyim while it's still attached to the ground. Okay. But dalis of a dekel balabais morido mechalek la'aniyim. However, when it comes to dalis, which is a grapevine that is trained
Wait,
over
I think I'm in the wrong place. Where are you right now?
Dalit Aleph.
Okay. I'm sorry.
You
Go
with
ahead.
okay, you with me? All
Yeah,
right.
I'm with you.
So Dalis of a decal. So with the grapevine that's trained over trees or something that's high, or a decal, which is a palm tree where you want to get the dates. So dates are also liable to payer, but they're very high. The date is very high. So now there's a worry that the aniyim are going to try and climb it and damage themselves in the process because it's they're putting themselves in sakana there. Balabais morid umechalik la'aniyim. So therefore, the owner must do the harvesting because he's got all the tools and equipment to harvest the dates, and he can then he can give it over to the aniyim. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer, af bechalikei egozim, and he says the same thing goes for smooth nut trees, and that's he says that those trees are also difficult to climb and cause and put people at risk. However, the halakha doesn't follow him. Okay, afilu now coming back to the original situation where you've just got a regular field. Afilu tishim v'tisha omrim lechalek. So you got 100 aniyim in the field, and 99 of them say okay, come, let's get the farmer to harvest this and give it out to us. And there's
Mhm.
one guy, and the reason why they're saying it is because there's one guy over there who's got big forearms and he says no, lavos, we must all everyone for himself. Everyone get into this field and help for yourself. Lazeh Shomin. We listen to him because she'amar halacha. That is the halacha. Is
Yeah.
that aniyim take for themselves, and you got to get in there. And if you want to get Peah, you got to get in there and compete with the other aniyim. Unfortunately, so.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Bedalis uvadekel enochen. However, when it comes to the palm trees and the ones where it's difficult and dangerous to harvest. אפילו 99 אומרים לבוז ואחד אומר לחלק לזה שומעים שאמר כהלכה. So even if 99 of them say, no, no, we must all do it for ourselves, and one guy says, that's not fair, it's going to be dangerous, you let the farmer take it down for us, and then we listen to him. He's the guy who's right, he's saying kehalacha. So this is not something where it's a democracy and everyone agrees they want to do it in a certain way. You do it according to halacha. Okay. Mishnah Gimel, Natal Miktas Peah Uzraka ala Sha'ar. Okay, so here you can imagine actually that that when the farmer makes the announcement and says, "Okay, I'm done with my field, Peah is open," it's like if you've got a lot of aniyim who are all depending on the field, they're all going to be charging into the field and trying to grab as much as they can for themselves. Okay, and so one guy takes an armful of pear. He's harvested some, and he sees somebody else coming for another bundle, and he wants to grab it for himself. But so he throws his existing the stuff that he's already got on top of the other one in order to claim it for himself. Okay, well, that's also an Ha'aretz thing to do because that's not a Kenyan. A
Right.
Kenyan is when you take it and pick it up, not when you throw something on top of it. Ein lo baklum, he has no claim to it. And as a matter of fact, Ein lo baklum, Mepharshim say that he actually has a knas that what he loses out on the produce that he threw back down. So even though he did make a kinyan on that, so he lost it because that's an unfair attempt to grab payah at the expense of the other aniyim. Okay, nafal lo aleha, even if he dives in personally on top of it. Right? You can't make a kinyan by lying on top of something. You only make a kinyan by picking it up.
Oh,
Okay. Uperas tariso aleha, or he threw his cloak over it, either to try and make a kinyan, which obviously is ineffective, or to conceal it from other people. Ma'virin oso hemena. They take him and they kick him out of the field. It's because this is not the way that you do things. You are no longer welcome in this field. V'chein beleket, v'chein be'omer hashikha. And the same thing applies to the other gifts that come to the aniyim, i.e. leket and shikha, which we will learn about later in this Masechta.
yeah.
Okay, now let's go back to brachas
Okay.
and finish that off, and then we'll go back to the beginning of Peah.
Hey, brothers. Um, Whoever enters a walled city recites two prayers, one when entering and one when leaving. Then Azai says four, two when he enters and two when leaving, and one gives thanks for the past and supplicates for the future. One is obligated to bless for the evil, just as one blesses for the good, since it is said, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your life, and with all your might, with all your heart, with both of your inclinations, the good and the bad, and with all your life, even the cost of your life, and with all your might, with all the material possessions." Another interpretation of "with all your might," whatever the treatment God metes out, he meets out to you, thank him very, very much. One should avoid showing disrespect in the direction of the eastern gate because it is in direct line with the Holy of Holies. One may not enter the Temple Mount with a stick, with his shoes, with his wallet, and the dust on his feet, nor may one make a shortcut and to spit. All the including formulas of the brachot in the temple included the saying of forever. When the heretics taught corruptly and said there is only one world, they instituted that they should say from everlasting to everlasting. They also ordained that people should greet one another with the use of the name, as it says, "And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, the Lord is with you." And they replied, "The Lord bless you." And it says, "God be with you, mighty man of valor." And it says, "Despise not your mother when she's old." And it says, "It's time to act for the Lord. They have made void your Torah." For Nathan says, "They have made void your Torah because it is time to act for the Lord."
Okay, Hadron Allah set brachas. Okay, and
And
the first Mishnah in Peah.
Peah, do not sorry, I just put the wrong thing in the wrong place. Okay. Uh, these things have no measure. The corn of the first fruits, the rayon, the deeds of loving kindness, and study of the Torah. These are the things, the fruits of which a man enjoys in this world, and the principle reigns with for him in the world to come. The honoring of one's father and mother, the deeds of loving kindness, and making peace between a man and his fellow, and the study of the Torah is equal to them all. Okay.
Interesting. By the way, this Mishnah over here is different from the brisa that we say in the morning when we say the Torah brachas. Rav Heber was speaking on Shabbos about Hachnasas Orchim among other things, um, as you can imagine for the parsha.
Right.
And he was talking about the all the rest of the things in that brisa that I mentioned. There's kibbut av v'aim is min Torah. Clearly, you can it's one of the Ten Commandments. But then thereafter, every one of those other mitzvahs that are mentioned is not mentioned in the Torah anyway. It's all you have is personal examples. You have Avram doing Kachnas as Orchem and doing Levias HaMeis, and you've got
Right.
Aaron HaKohen bringing Shalom Ben Adam Lechavero, which is not even a beferish. That's just what our Masorah of what Aaron used to do. All these other things, other than at the end Talmud Torah, which is again beferish in the Torah, Higisi Yobab Miyamam Balayla, etc., Shinantam Levanecha V'Dibat Abam, whatever. But all the rest of them are not mentioned as mitzvahs in the Torah. They're not counted in the 613 mitzvahs. What? Okay, so so he was saying that there are some things that are so fundamental that you don't even need a mitzvah to tell you that this is what you do. This is what Jews do. It's just taken for granted. And that's
Right.
like almost a laundry list of all of the things that are so fundamental that we don't even have to have a mitzvah to tell us about it.
It's common sense. It's what Jews do. It's
Okay,
all
yeah,
right.
Dalet Bey.
Um, Aleph, Bet.
Dalet
A
Bey.
woman, right. A woman who is to tell a yom may knead a dough, and she separates challah and sets it aside and
Hold
places
on, hold
on
on,
it in it.
hold on, hold on. Yadayim Dalet Beis.
Challah base. That's what I meant. We're done.
Wait,
Oh, oh, turn to the wrong page. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do this all the time because of the way it is.
okay.
Um, here it is. Oh my gosh. All the time I do it. Um, on that day, they said all sacrificial offerings that were slaughtered for a designation other than their own are valid, but they are not credited to the owner's fulfillment of his obligations, except for the Pesach and Kantas offerings. The Pesach offering in its proper time, and the Kantas offering at all times. From Eliezer says also the Asham offering, the Pesach offering in its proper time, and the Kantos and Asham offerings at all times. From Shimon ben Azai said, I have a tradition received from the 72 elders on the day that they appointed Reb Elazar ben Azariah as head of the yeshiva, that all sacrifices that are eaten that were slaughtered for a designation other than their own are valid, but that they are not credited to the owner's fulfillment of his obligation except for the Pesach and Kantos offerings. And Azai added only the Allah offerings, but the sages did not concur with him. On that day, they said, what is the law regarding Ammon and Moab in the seventh year? Reb Tarfon decreed Maisa Ani. Reb Eleazar ben Zariah decreed Maisa Sheni. Reb Yishmael said, Eleazar ben Zariah, you must demonstrate a proof since you rule stringently, for whoever rules stringently must demonstrate a proof. Reb Eleazar ben Zariah said to him, my brother Yishmael, I have not deviated from the order of the years. It is Tarfon, my brother, who has deviated, and he must demonstrate a proof. Tarshan responded, Egypt is outside the land of Eretz Israel, and Ammon and Moab are outside the land of Eretz Israel. Just as in Egypt, Maisa Ani is separated in the seventh year, so too in Ammon and Moab, Maisa Ani must be separated in the seventh year. And Elazar and Azariah responded, Babylonia is outside the land of Eretz Israel, and Ammon and Moab are outside the land of Eretz Israel. Just as in Babylonia, Maisa Sheni is separated in the seventh year, so too in Ammon and Moab, Maisa Sheni must be separated in the seventh year. Reb Tarfon said regarding Egypt, which is nearby to Eretz Israel, they instituted Maisa Ani so that the poor of Israel might be sustained by it in the seventh year. So too regarding Ammon and Moab, which are also nearby to Eretz Israel, let us institute Maisa Ani so that the poor of Israel might be sustained by them in the seventh year. And Elazar ben Zanariah said to Reb Tarfon, behold, it is as if you are benefiting them monetarily, but you are actually causing loss of lives, for you are restraining the heavens from letting fall dew and rain. As it is said, should a man steal from God as you steal from me? And you say, how have you stolen from you? By withholding the tithes and the truma. Rabbi Yeshua said, behold, I shall act as a respondent on behalf of Tarfon, my brother, but not with regard to his words. Regarding Egypt, it is a new act, but regarding Babylonia, it's an old act, and the issue before us is also a new act. A new act should be judged from another new act, but a new act should not be judged from an old act. Furthermore, the tithing obligation in Egypt is an act of the elders, but in Babylonia it's an act of the prophets. And the issue before us is also an act of the elders. An act of the elders should be judged from another act of the elders, but an act of the elders should not be judged from the act of the prophets. They were counted and they resolved that as regards Ammon and Moab, one should separate Misa Ani in the seventh year. And Yossi, the son of Dumarcus, said to Rebbe Eliezer in the town of Lod, Rebbe Eliezer said to him, what new lessons did you have today in the house of study? He answered them, they were counted and they resolved that as regards Ammon and Moab, one should be Misa Ani in the seventh year. Rebbe Eliezer wept and said, the secret of God is with those who fear him, and he will inform them of his covenant. Go and tell them, do not be concerned about your count. I have the tradition received from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who heard it from his teacher, and from his teacher heard it from his teacher, and so on until the Rav Haka received by Moshe at Mount Sinai. Now regarding Ammon and Moab, one should separate Misa Ani in the seventh year. On that day, Yehuda and Ammonite convert came and stood before him in the house of our study. He said to them, what is my status with regard to entering in the Jewish congregation? Gamil said to him, you are forbidden. Rabbi Yeshua said to him, you are permitted. Rabbi Gamaliel said to Rabbi Yeshua, Scripture says an Ammonite or a Moabite may not enter into God's congregation, even at the 10th generation. Rabbi Yeshua said to him, but are the Ammonites and Moabites in their places? Long ago, Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, came up and mixed up all the nations as it said, I have removed the boundaries of peoples and have plundered their treasures and have brought them down dwellers in strongholds. Like Gamil said to him, but scripture states, but afterwards I will return the captivity of the children of Ammon. And they have already returned. So Yeshua said to him, the scripture says, I will return the captivity of my people Israel, and they have not yet returned. They permitted him to enter the Jewish congregation. Okay.
Okay. Boss.
Okay. The base. Olive Ches. A higher grade is spoiled spring water, for it purifies also when in motion. A higher grade is living water, for therein then can be immersion of zavim, and therewith there can be sprinkling from the tzorim, and it is fit to consecrate therefore from purification water. If a tummy person went down to immerse himself, but there's a doubt whether he immersed himself or he did not immerse himself, or alternatively, even if he definitely did immerse himself, there's a doubt whether there were 40 saw of water or not, or alternatively, there were two mikvos, one containing 40 saw and the other not, and he immersed himself in one of them but did not know in which one. These doubtful cases are judged tummy. If a mikvah was mentioned and found lacking all ritually poor foods that were prepared on its basis, therefore, whether in a private domain or a public domain, they're tummy. In regard to what are these words said, only in a case of severe tumah. But in the case of mild tumah, for instance, one who ate tame foods and drank tame liquids, or one whose head a greater part of his body entered the drawn water, or 3 lugim of drawn water fell over his head and greater part of his body, if he went down to immerse himself, but there is doubt whether he immersed himself or did not immerse himself, well, alternatively, if he did immerse himself and there was doubt whether there were 40 saw of water or not, or alternatively, there were two mikvos, one containing 40 saw, the other not, and he immersed himself in one of them, but does not know which one, these doubtful cases are judged tahor. Rav Yossi declares a tummy, and Rav Yossi says anything that is the kazaka of tumah is forever in its qualified state until it is known that it became tahor. However, a doubtful case of whether it became tummy or whether he caused tumah is judged tahor. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Kinam. Okay. Aleph Gimel. In what case are these words said? With obligatory pairs of bird offerings and voluntary bird offerings which mingle together. But with obligatory pairs of bird offerings which mingle with one another, one pair for this woman, one pair for that woman, two pairs for this woman, two pairs for that woman, three pairs for this woman, three pairs for that woman. Half of the mingled birds are valid to be offered, and half of the birds are invalid to be offered. If, however, there was one pair of obligatory bird offerings for this woman and two such pairs for that woman, or 3 such pairs for that woman, or 10 pairs for that woman, 100 pairs for that woman, the amount of birds in the smallest group is valid. But valid to be offered, whether they are brought for the same obligation or whether they are brought for 2 different obligations. whether they are brought from one woman or whether they are brought from two different women. What is the case of the two groups of offerings being brought for one type of obligation? If the first group of offerings is brought for one incident of a woman giving birth, and the other group of groups were brought also incidents of giving birth, or if the first group of offerings were brought for one occurrence of ziva, and the other group of groups were brought for occurrences of ziva, there are cases of both groups being brought for one type of obligation. And what is the case of the two groups of offerings being brought for two different types of obligations? If one group was brought for a birth and the other group was brought for occurrence of ziva, what is the case of the two groups of orphans being born from two women? If the two groups of birds were born to atone for this woman upon giving birth and to atone for that woman upon giving birth, or if the two groups of birds were brought to atone for this woman for an occurrence of ziva and to atone for this woman for an occurrence of ziva, these are the cases of groups belonging to both women being brought for one type of obligation. And what is the case of groups offerings for two women being brought for two different types of obligations? If one group of offerings is brought to atone for this woman upon giving birth, and the other group of offerings is brought for the atone for that woman upon occurrence of Ziva, Yossi says two women who are obligated to bring bird offerings who took their pair of birds for their offerings mixed together without designating which particular birds they would belong to which woman, or if they together gave the purchase money for their pair of birds to the Kohen who sells the birds without designating which money belongs to whom, the Kohen may offer whichever birds he wishes as a katos and offer whichever birds he wishes to as an olah, whether they are both brought for the same type of obligation or whether they are each brought for two different types of obligations.
Okay, and to base out of
As an undesignated pair from which one bird flew away to the open air of the world, or flew to among bird offerings which must be left to die, or if one of them died, he must take a partner for the second bird. If it flew to among others that are fit for offering, it is unfit, and if it renders unfit one bird, corresponding to itself, for a bird which flies out of its parent, that the other pairs is unfit and renders unfit one bird corresponding to itself.
yeah.
Okay. And Baba Metzia. Zion. If one leased a field from another for 10 cores of wheat per year, and it was struck, he may pay him out of it. If its wheat was superior, he may not say to him, I will buy from the market, but he must give him out of it. If one leased a field from another to sow barley in it, he may not sow it with wheat. Wheat he may sow with barley. Rabbi Simon Gamel prohibits it. Grain he may not sow with beans. Beans he may sow with grain. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamel prohibits it. If one leased a field from another for a few years, he may not sow it with flax, and he may have no right to the beams of the sycamore. If he leased it from him for 7 years, the first year he may sow with flax, and he has the right to beams of the sycamore. If
Okay,
one leased
done.
okay, and Skolem. Okay, base olive. They may convert Skolem into dark hones to lighten the bird the other way. Just as there were collection chests in the temple, so were the collection chests in the provinces. If the townspeople sent their half shekels and they were stolen or lost, then if the truma had already been withdrawn, their messengers must swear in the presence of the treasurers. But if not, they must swear in the presence of the townspeople, and the townspeople must contribute other half shekels in their stead. If the missing half shekels were subsequently found, or if the thieves returned them, and then these and those are consecrated as half shekels, but are not credited to them for the following year. One who gives his half shekel to his colleague to contribute for him, but the colleague contributed for himself. If the truma had already been withdrawn, he has misappropriated. One who contributes his half shekel from consecrated funds, if the truma had already been withdrawn and the animal bought with his money had already been offered, he has misappropriated. And if one paid his half a shekel with Meiser Sheni funds or with Shemitah funds, he must eat food bought with other money of an equivalent value. If one collected coins and said, let these be for my half shekel, Ben Shammai says the remainder is placed in the collection chest marked the native offering. Beis Hillel says the remainder is unconsecrated if he said, I will bring my half shekel from these funds, and they concur that the remainder is unconsecrated. If he said these funds will go to for the purchase of a sin offering, they concur with the remainder is placed in the collection chest marked the native offering. And he said, I will bring an animal purchase from these funds for a sin offering, they concur with the remainder is unconsecrated.
Right. It all depends on the phrasing. Okay, I got to run.
Okay, have a great day. Enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.